As Donald Trump celebrated 100 days back in the White House this week, more than ever we have witnessed the president insisting up is down, black is white, and like King Canute, he has the unique capacity to stop the waves caused by things like his trade war from crashing into the country. But we've also witnessed scenes in which some of his top aides have exuded so much confidence about the fact that they are only 100 days into their 4-year term that they can now embrace a fully North Korean outlook on life.
Children will be taught to love America. Children will be taught to be patriots. Children will be taught civic values for schools that want federal taxpayer funding. So as we close the Department of Education and we provide funding to states, we are going to make sure that these funds are not being used to promote communist ideology.
A strident Stephen Miller, the White House Deputy Chief of Staff, outlining the future of American education and pledging there to get communist ideology out of schools, despite the fact that in reality it isn't in schools in the first place. The brains behind the president's lurch to the far right, Mr. Miller, whose own great-grandfather fled the anti-Jewish pogroms of Eastern Europe in 1903 and was lucky enough to start a new life here in the United States, is nonetheless the architect of President Trump's program of mass deportations. And this week, he created another straw man, tearing the media off a strip, accusing White House reporters and what he furiously calls the legacy media of being personally complicit in the rape and murder of innocent Americans.
If I offered any one of you a rent-free home with no taxes to pay in any of these gang neighborhoods, and I said your neighbors are MS-13 terrorists or Mexican mafia, or Sinaloa cartel, or Tren de Aragua, I couldn't pay you to live there. But yet you, with your coverage, are trying to force innocent Americans to have these people as their neighbors, and that one day their daughter may be abducted from their home and raped and murdered.
I mean, none of this is normal, and that's before we get to this week's cabinet meeting, except it wasn't in any real sense a cabinet meeting. It was a made-for-TV reality show in which for nearly 2 hours, the president's top lieutenants heaped praise upon him, again, fully North Korean style. I was going to make my own montage, but helpfully, CNN did it for me.
He's actually doing the things that he promised that he would do, and Mr. President, it's been an honor to be part of it for the past 100 days.
Mr. President, the last 4 years, the world experienced a total lack of zero leadership under Biden, and then we had 100 days of your leadership with respect, with strength.
President, your first 100 days has far exceeded that of any other presidency in this country, ever, ever. Never seen anything like it. Thank you.
President Trump, in your first term, when I had a chance to work with you as governor, you were courageous. The thing that's empowering this amazing group of people around this table, and you've probably assembled the greatest cabinet ever, is that this time you're not just courageous, you're actually fearless.
He's a lion of a man, I tell you. I'm a little worried, by the way, about Doug Burgum, the President's Secretary of the Interior, from whom you heard at the end there saying that Donald Trump had probably assembled the greatest cabinet ever. Surely a slip of the tongue that he will correct at the earliest opportunity, perhaps wearing one of the baseball caps emblazoned with the phrase Gulf of America that were laid out around the cabinet table like party favours at a small child's birthday celebration. Tucked into the middle of that cabinet meeting, there was quite a concession from Donald Trump that he actually knows that his trade war is going to do what economists all say it is going to do, namely lead to rising prices all over America, and that Christmas might be disrupted. Here's the president telling parents they don't really need all that stuff they buy for the kids from China.
Much of it we don't need. You know, somebody said, oh, the shelves are going to be open. Well, maybe the children will have $2 instead of $30, you know? And maybe the $2 will cost a couple of bucks more than they would normally.
Maybe the prices will rise, but if the economists were right about that, maybe they were right that the United States is on track to go into a recession. Maybe the 0.3% contraction in the US economy that we learnt this week took place in the first quarter of the year is the harbinger of much worse to come. The president on social media insisted the economic slowdown had nothing to do with tariffs and was all Joe Biden's fault. But unfortunately, his trade advisor, Peter Navarro, was simultaneously appearing on business network CNBC and making it clear that in fact it is the trade war that is causing the problem.
The markets need to look beneath the surface of that. We had a 22% increase in domestic investment. That is off the charts when you strip out inventories and the negative effects of the surge in imports because of the tariffs. You had 3% growth.
Just to be clear about what he said there, if it weren't for the tariffs, the economy would have grown by 3%. But because of the tariffs, the economy actually shrank. Makes you wonder why they're so committed to the tariffs. It turned out this week that Donald Trump was not committed to his national security advisor, Mike Waltz.
Well, Brian, this deal is good for the American taxpayer that is recouping the billions of dollars that we've put into supporting Ukraine. It's good for Ukraine and helping it grow.
Mr. Waltz making possibly his last appearance on Fox News as National Security Advisor yesterday morning and talking up the Economic Cooperation Pact that Ukraine and the US finally signed on Wednesday night. Whether he knew it or not, he was about to be ousted from the president's inner circle, paying the price for Signalgate, the flap created last month by his inadvertent inclusion of highly respected reporter Jeffrey Goldberg in a group chat on the messaging app Signal, where Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth openly circulated highly classified plans to launch attacks on Houthi rebels in Yemen. But Mr. Waltz is also taking the fall for being perceived as too moderate, insufficiently hard-line, not sufficiently supportive of the president's Make America Great Again agenda. Donald Trump announced yesterday that he now wants Mr. Waltz to become the country's next UN ambassador, which tells you everything you need to know about how little the president values that particular position. Secretary of State Marco Rubio will in his copious free time also helm the National Security Council, at least for now, in addition to his two other jobs as the acting archivist of the United States and leading whatever is left of the US Agency for International Development. By the way, Boston University's School of Public Health now estimates that in the time it takes me to deliver this edition of American Week, another 25 people will have died, 103 every hour worldwide, thanks entirely to Elon Musk's decision to feed USAID into his wood chipper.
The law requires that every single person who is going to be deported gets a hearing first.
Well,
do you acknowledge that?
I'll have to ask the lawyers about that.
The week may end up being best remembered for a very contentious interview with the president conducted by the excellent Terry Moran of ABC News, a former reporter for Court TV, who is very well versed in the laws of the land. He challenged the president over why he's disregarding the legal requirement to give every deportee access to due process. They also discussed the plight of 29-year-old Kilmar Abrego Garcia, seized off the streets of Maryland and deported by the White House to Trump's El Salvadorian gulag by mistake. He's still stuck there, even though the Supreme Court says he must be returned to America. In this astonishing exchange, the president insists that Mr. Abrego Garcia is a member of the MS-13 criminal gang, for which he has never been charged, and he tries to force his interviewer to accept something that is flatly untrue.
On his knuckles, he had MS-13.
There's a dispute
Well,
over that.
wait a minute. He had MS-13 on his knuckles tattooed.
Oh, he had some tattoos that are interpreted that way. But let's move on.
Wait a minute. Hey, Terry.
He did not have the letter MS-13.
It says MS-13.
That was Photoshopped. So let me
That was Photoshop. Terry, you can't do that. Do you want me to show you the picture?
I saw the picture.
And you think it was
agree to disagree.
Photoshop. He's got MS-13 on his knuckles.
All right.
Okay?
Well, we'll take a look at that.
You do such a disservice.
We'll take a look at
Why
that,
don't you
sir.
just say, yes, he does, and, go on to something else?
It's contested.
An amazing moment. Just to be clear, the president professes to believe that Mr. Abrego Garcia has MS-13, the name of the gang, tattooed on his fingers, when it is clear, even in the photograph that he himself has brandished to make that particular case, that the tattoos themselves do not say MS-13. The letters and numbers have simply been added to the picture by the Department of Homeland Security to indicate what US officials allege the tattoos might mean, although they could, of course, mean something altogether different, as his family maintains. It is no small matter because the correct place to resolve the government's allegations about Mr. Abrego Garcia is in the courts, but they won't let him come home, much less go anywhere near lawyers and a judge. The White House is now in flagrant violation of the Supreme Court's order and a whole host of other court orders on a whole host of other issues. Whether they get into compliance with the courts or continue to steamroller them, well, that's going to be the story of America's next 100 days and beyond.